I'm 92 years old, and I only just realized I spent my whole life being used. I confused it for love, for decades. I saw it all clear as day, right here in this quiet room. Let me tell you what happened. It started when I was holding this old picture. Me and Robert, our 50th anniversary. My hands started to shake, not from being old, but from finally understanding. I looked at my life like it was a book with two lists. One list for people who loved me, one list for people who used me. I had them all in the wrong columns. Let me explain. It was a party at his fancy club. Robert gave a big speech. He called me his rock. He said he couldn't have done any of it without me. Everyone clapped. I felt so proud. I thought, this is it. This is my reward. But you see, I planned that whole party myself. He was too busy. He was always too busy with his deals. I picked the food, the music, everything. He only cared about the wine. I wrote all the checks. I told myself I was just being a good wife, a capable partner. That's what he always called me, capable. To understand, you have to go back. I was his secretary first. This was 1958. My name is Elizabeth, but he called me Lizzie. He was a mess. I fixed his schedule. I even talked to his girlfriends on the phone. He said I centered him. He said he loved how calm I was. We got married fast. I thought that was love. Honestly, I did. It felt like being chosen. The first person who showed me something different was my grandson, Leo. He came to live with us when he was 16. Robert hated the noise. But Leo, he asked me questions, real ones. What was my favorite book as a girl? What did I want to be? Robert never asked me things like that. Not once. One day, Leo found some old papers. The deed for the lake house. I told him I bought that land with my own money, my inheritance. I oversaw the whole build while Robert was away for work. I said it was our dream place. Leo just looked at me, kind of sad. He said, "Did he ever even like the lake, Grandma?" I couldn't answer. Robert hated it there. He said it was boring. He only went to impress people. That question stuck with me. Then my daughter, Caroline, she said something worse. She and Robert had a big fight. She was crying. She turned to me and said, "You've just been the help he didn't have to pay, Mom. The permanent secretary." I got so mad. I yelled at her. I defended him. But later, her words wouldn't leave me alone. That's when I started thinking about my sister Margot. Back in the 70s, she needed me to co-sign a loan. A big one. Robert told me not to do it. He said it was a bad idea. But she was my sister. I did it. Of course they couldn't pay. I had to cover it. It took all my savings. When I told Margot how much it hurt, she just laughed a little. She said, "Oh, Lizzie, you're the strong one. You always land on your feet." She didn't say sorry. My being strong just meant she could take from me. Once I saw that, I saw the other list. The good one. Mr. Henderson at the library. He was just a quiet man, a widower. We talked about books. He noticed I liked birds. One day he gave me an old, beat-up copy of A Little Princess. He found it and thought of me. He never wanted a thing from me. We were just friends. Then Robert got sick. He had a stroke. He was sick for 8 years. I did everything. I hired the nurses. I gave him his medicine. He was scared. He held my hand. He said, "I love you," all the time then. More than he ever had. Part of me ate it up. But another part, I wondered, where was this man when I was sick? Where was he when I needed comfort? He only needed me when he had no one else to manage his life. The final thing was his will. After the funeral, the lawyer read it. Robert left almost everything in a trust. I control it, but when I die, it all goes to our son, David. David has never been good with money. Robert knew that. He used my whole life of being reliable to make sure David was taken care of. He used my management even after he was gone. That night, I sat alone in this big, quiet house. I said it out loud. I was used. Saying it didn't kill me. It was like opening a window. So here I am. I put that anniversary picture away in a drawer. I don't need to look at it anymore. I keep a picture of Leo and me at the lake house. We're really laughing. And I have that photo Mr. Henderson gave me of the sparrows. My hand doesn't shake now. I know the difference. Love isn't about what you can do for someone. It's about them seeing you. Just you. If you're in a life like mine, stop and look at your lists. It's not too late to tell the difference. It's not too late to tell the difference. And you know what? I think I started to really see it after Robert got sick. That first stroke changed everything. He was in the hospital for weeks. I was there every day. The doctors said he needed constant care. So I brought him home. For 8 years, I managed everything. I hired the nurses. I learned all his medications. I dealt with his bad moods. He was scared, you see. And when he was scared, he clung to me. He'd hold my hand so tight it hurt. He'd say, "Don't leave me, Lizzie. I love you." He said I love you more in those sick years than in all the 50 before. Part of me, a big part, wanted to believe it. Finally, I thought. Finally, he sees me. But here's the thing. One night, I was giving him his pills. He was in a foul mood. He snapped at me for being too slow. Then, 5 minutes later, he needed a blanket. As I was tucking him in, he grabbed my wrist. His eyes were wide. He said, "You'll take care of it, won't you? You always know what to do." And I just looked at him. I remembered a time years before when I had pneumonia. I was so sick I could barely breathe. Robert had a golf trip planned with clients. He went. He said, "You're tough, Lizzie. You'll be fine." He left me alone. Sitting by his bed that night, I wondered, is this love? Or is it just needing the manager? Needing the person who gets things done? Where was this man when my mother died? I was heartbroken. He told me not to make a scene at the funeral. He said it was embarrassing. So I cried alone in the pantry. The contrast was like a slap, because while all this was happening, Leo would visit. He'd come in, not asking for anything. He'd just sit with me in the kitchen while the nurse was with Robert. He'd make me a cup of tea. He wouldn't even talk sometimes. He'd just be there. And Mr. Henderson from the library, he'd call sometimes, just to check in. He'd say, "How are you holding up, Elizabeth?" Not, "How is Robert?" Me. He asked about me. Then Robert died. It was a relief, if I'm honest. A terrible, quiet relief. The house was so still. A few weeks later, the lawyer came. We sat in the study. He read the will. Robert left almost everything in a trust. I was in control of it, but only until I died. After that, it all went to our son David. Every last bit. Even the lake house I bought. Even the stocks from my father. David, well, David has never been good with money. Robert was always bailing him out. This trust, it was Robert's final plan. He used my whole life of being reliable. He used my good sense. He made me the trustee so that after he was gone, I would still be managing things. Managing his mess with David. Making sure his son was provided for, without him ever having to ask me to do it. It was the last perfect piece of using me. That night, I sat in this chair. The house was so empty. I said it out loud to the walls. I was used. My voice didn't even shake. Saying it was like a door opening. A door I didn't even know was locked. I didn't cry. I just felt clear. That clear feeling lasted about a week. Then the anger came. It was a hot, ugly thing. I looked around my beautiful, silent house, and I hated it. I hated the polished furniture Robert picked out. I hated the expensive art that meant nothing to me. I walked from room to room, and I saw a museum of my own usefulness. I had polished every surface. I had managed every detail. For what? I called my daughter Caroline. I wanted to tell her she was right. I needed to say it to someone who knew. When she answered, I just blurted it out. You were right. About everything. There was a long silence on the other end. Then she said, "Oh, Mom." Not, "I told you so," just, "Oh, Mom." And she started to cry. I realized her anger at me had been grief all along. Grief for the mother who was never really present because I was too busy managing Robert's world. That hurt more than anything. I had lost my daughter to him too. I went to the lake house, alone. I sat on the porch and looked at the water. I thought about all the hours I spent here, waiting for him to visit. All the weekends I spent alone, telling myself it was peaceful. It was just lonely. I had built my own prison with my own two hands and called it a dream. The hardest moment was with Leo. He came to see me at the lake. He knew something was wrong. I tried to explain it, this huge, awful realization. I said, "I think your grandfather never really loved me. I think he just needed me." Leo took my hand. He didn't give me empty comfort. He just said, "Tell me what that feels like, Grandma." So I did. I told him about the loneliness in the middle of the marriage. I told him about the pneumonia. I told him about the will. When I finished, he said, "I'm so sorry he did that to you." He called it what it was, something that was done to me, not just something that happened. That's when I cried, really cried. Big, heaving sobs that came from a place so deep inside I didn't know it existed. I cried for the young secretary who thought competence was a substitute for love. I cried for the mother who was too busy to see her own children clearly. I cried for all the years I spent on the wrong list. I lost my whole life, you see. Not the years, I still have those, but the story of my life. The story I told myself. The capable wife, the strong one, the rock. It was all a lie. The real story was much simpler. I was a tool. A very well-kept, appreciated tool, but a tool nonetheless. And when you realize that at 92, you have to ask yourself, what do I do with that? What's left? Here's what's left. After the crying stopped, I felt empty. But empty isn't always bad. An empty cup can be filled. I looked at Leo, his face so worried for me. And I thought of Arthur Henderson's quiet friendship. I thought of Caroline's tears on the phone. These people were on the other list, the real one. They were what was left. And maybe, just maybe, that was enough to start with. And maybe, just maybe, that was enough to start with. Here's what I learned, sitting in this quiet room with my empty cup. I was wrong about what love looks like. I thought it was grand gestures, public toasts, a shared bank account, a name on a deed. I thought it was being needed, urgently and constantly. That's what Robert made me feel, essential. But essential is not the same as cherished. Being the glue that holds a world together is a job, not a romance. The real thing The love that belongs in the right column is so much quieter. It's Leo asking a question and then actually listening to the answer. It's Arthur Henderson seeing a battered book and thinking of me, with no expectation of return. It doesn't demand. It doesn't consume. It simply sees you, Elizabeth, and is glad that you exist. My mistake was that I performed love instead of receiving it. I performed the capable wife, the unflappable secretary, the strong sister, the reliable mother. I gave an Oscar-worthy performance for an audience of one, Robert, and then wondered why I felt so hollow when the curtain came down. I confused being useful with being valuable. I thought if I could just be more efficient, more understanding, more needed, then I would be loved. But that's a transaction. You're trading your labor for a feeling of security. And when you stop being useful, or when the other person gets what they need from somewhere else, you're left with the receipt, not the gift. So here is my advice, plain and simple. If you're listening to this and something in your chest feels tight, stop. Just stop. Look at your own ledger. Ask yourself the hard question. Am I being managed or am I being seen? When you're sick, do they bring you soup and sit with you? Or do they tell you you're tough and go about their day? When you have a dream, do they ask you about it? Or do they calculate how it might affect them? Don't look at their words. Words are cheap, and charming people have them in abundance. Look at their actions when there's nothing in it for them. Look at what they do when you have nothing left to give. And if you're on the other side, if you recognize yourself as the user, perhaps without even meaning to, it's not too late to change. Stop treating the strong people in your life like emotional banks. Their strength is not an infinite resource. Apologize. Mean it. Start seeing. Ask a question about their childhood and remember the answer. Give a gift for no reason at all. It's never too late to move someone from the wrong column to the right one, including yourself. You still have time. Maybe not decades. Maybe not even years. But you have now. And now is enough to put down the burden of performance. It's enough to say, this is me. Not what I can do for you. Just me. It's terrifying. It feels like standing naked in that sunbeam. But that's where the real light gets in. That's where you find the people who love you, not for your utility, but for your essence. My peace didn't come from getting back what I lost. It came from finally understanding what I'd had all along in those quiet, overlooked corners of my life. Leo. Caroline, in her own wounded way. Arthur. They were the real treasures. I was just too busy balancing Robert's books to see my own wealth. If this story has echoed in your own quiet room, I'd ask you to do a few things. First, subscribe to this channel. More stories like this are shared here, stories of late-in-life clarity that might help you read your own ledger. Turn on notifications so you don't miss them. If this resonated with you, please give this video a like. It's a small signal that tells me these words mattered, that they found their way to someone who needed to hear them. Most importantly, I want to hear from you. Leave a comment below and tell me, what was your moment of clarity? When did you see the difference between being loved and being used? Your story might be the light for someone else sitting in their own stillness. And if you feel comfortable, share this with someone. Maybe it's a friend who needs the nudge, or maybe it's the person who uses you, sent without a word, as a quiet invitation for them to see. My hand is steady now. The ledger is closed. The sunbeam has moved across the desk, and the dust motes have settled. I am 92. I was used, and then I was loved. It took me a lifetime to tell the difference, but I finally did. And that has made all the difference.